What's up, guys? Welcome back to Savage Rounds with Xavier. This is episode 33. We've only got 3 cards left on the year. This one, obviously. Next week, Song Gutierrez, which was supposed to be overseas, but something happened. Can't make it work. Now it's back in the Apex, unfortunately. And then we end the year off December 16th, UFC 296, Leon versus Colby for the welterweight strap. That'll be fun. But first, we've got some fights to go over today for this weekend. Kicking off the card, we've got Veronica Hardy returning to take on Jamie Lynn Horth. She looked good. Both these girls looked good in their last fight, actually. Jamie Lynn Horth getting her debut victory. Veronica Hardy coming off after a layoff, getting a good win. Hardy, 28 years old, 7-4-1, 5'4", 64-inch reach, 2-3 in her last 5. Her last fight was that kind of comeback fight I was talking about, unanimous decision victory over Juliana Miller back in March, where she did look very good. Jamie Lynn Horth on the other side, 33 years old, 6-0, 5'7", 67-inch reach. Obviously, her last 5, she's 5-0. She's undefeated with 1 win in the UFC. And that was the one I was talking about, also a unanimous decision victory, but this one was over Haley Cowan, and just a month after Veronica Hardy in April. I think with this one, because of how good Veronica Hardy looked last time, it was against a lesser opponent. I hate to say it, Juliana Miller. It was not a good, tough season that she won the Ultimate Fighter. She comes into the UFC and she hasn't looked good at all. I think she's 3-3 now is her record. I don't foresee her being in the UFC very long. So Veronica Hardy did what she needed to do, did what she should do against Juliana Miller, and I think that's kind of sticking in people's brains. I think I don't want to say they're giving Juliana Miller more credit than she deserves, but I think they're more so remembering the performance than who it was against. And Jamie Lynn Horth, obviously Haley Cowan's a better opponent. I just think Jamie Lynn Horth is a bit more of a steadier fighter than Hardy going into this one. I love her straight punches. She also has good grappling like Veronica Hardy, and I trust her cardio much more. I think in this one, to be honest, I don't know. Maybe Veronica Hardy goes for a few takedowns. I don't know if that'll be the primary point in her game this one. Maybe it will be, but I think she knows Jamie Lynn Horth is quite decent on the ground. But on the feet, Veronica Hardy, she's a very fast starter. Like I said, she looked good in her last fight. Her Muay Thai was very good. Fast kicks, good hands. They're a little bit. She throws looping shots, not too many straight shots, and I just don't think that's gonna bode well for her in this one. With Horth having the length advantage, the height advantage, and throwing the straight shots. But Veronica Hardy will come on strong. I think we'll actually have quite a close first round just because of that pressure Hardy brings and the volume she throws out. She throws a lot of volume, or at least she did against Juliana Miller, which is how I assume she'll come into this fight. But I think she'll start to tire. Jamie Lynn Horth will be able to deal with it much better than Juliana Miller did while also landing. And once Jamie Lynn Horth starts to land her straight shots in the second round, towards the end of the first round, into the second round, once she starts landing her shots well, and Veronica Hardy's having to eat a few more shots, her pressure's not as high energy as it was before. I think she'll start to wear down. Jamie Lynn Horth will be able to continue pushing that pace over the 3 rounds, and I think that'll lead her to a decision victory. Maybe we see some weird third round submission, but I doubt it. I think Jamie Lynn Horth wins this one by decision at a pretty high clip. I'm staying away from this one betting wise, though. I wanted to take Jamie Lynn Horth, but I ended up waiting too long. I was going to take her at like -110, -120 range, but my book took the line down and it came back up and it was like -154, so I didn't want to. I don't know, I was a little suspect, not suspect on the line, but I liked having the -110 price there. It just kind of, I don't know if I want to pay the 154 now, 171, so I'll probably end up staying away from this. But if you got it at like -110, -120, maybe even -130, I think you got a good price, because I think the line is about where it should be now. Horth should be about a -175, -185 favorite. So I think the line's good now, but if you got it before, very good line. I should have taken it earlier when I had it, but I just waited a bit too long and the line got away from me. Next up, we got something in my eye. We've got Wellington Turman taking on Jared Gooden. I don't love this fight. I don't have too much to say on it, but I will give you a prediction. Wellington Turman, 27 years old, 18-7, 6 feet tall, 72-inch reach, 2-3 in his last 5. His last fight was a unanimous decision loss versus Randy Brown in June, and he actually, on the feet, he looked much. I'll talk about that in a second, but Jared Gordon, 29 years old, 22-9 is his record, 6 feet tall as well, 77-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5. that first 0-1 is his current UFC run. He got cut in his first UFC run where he went 1-3. You can see it there. Does decent away from the UFC. Got knocked out by Impa Kasagane in a fight, who is now the PFL champion, just won $1 million, so that's pretty cool. Good for him. And then he's come back 0-1 now in the UFC, and it is that unanimous decision loss versus Carlston Harris back in March. I don't love either of these fighters. I don't think either of them are like super, super high level, but I think Wellington Turman should probably have Jared Gooden handled on the feet. Wellington, what I was going to say before I almost skipped the Jared Gooden stats, but versus Randy Brown, Wellington Turman actually looked pretty decent. Surprisingly, his cardio kind of held up going into that third round, and he was able to put good pressure on Randy Brown. I don't think he won the fight, obviously, but it just felt like an improvement on what we'd seen striking-wise. We know his grappling is decent. He doesn't have the best takedowns, but once it's on the ground, he has pretty solid jiu-jitsu. I don't think Jared Gooden's very good. He can get knocked out. He's never been submitted, actually, but we've seen him get stuck on bottom. He has trouble getting up sometimes. His initial takedown defense isn't bad, but once he's on bottom, sometimes he can have trouble getting up, and I like his cardio better. I think maybe he's a little bit more durable than Gooden. Like I said, I didn't tape this too deeply. I watched each of their last fights and maybe one or two more for Turman. It was like a week ago. And I don't know. There was just nothing that stuck out to me. I don't love this spot for either of them. I think Wellington Turman wins this, though. Actually, I didn't write it down, but I was thinking about one. I probably won't play it, but Wellington Turman KO just kind of stuck out to me. It was like plus 375 or something. But I don't know. This isn't a fight I want to bet. But I do think Wellington Turman wins this one. I want to say inside the distance because I don't trust Jared Gooden. His chin is a little bit suspect, and I just don't think he's great, but I don't know. This could totally end up as a decision, but I think Wellington Turman gets the victory. I think the pressure, he feels like a bit bigger of a guy. I don't know. I think Wellington Turman's got this one. Like I said, though, I don't have too much of an opinion or a read on this one. Next up, Bato taking on Ihor Poteria, both Contender Series alumni. And Bato, we've seen him fight Vitor Petrino twice, outside of the UFC, and once on Contender Series. So we know Bato. He's 27 years old, 11-2, 6'3", 75-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5, 1-1 on Contender Series. He lost to Vitor Petrino, and then this fight you see right here was his last one on Contender Series, a round 2 KO TKO victory over Murtaza Talha, and that was in October of this year, so not too long ago. Ihor Poteria on the other side, 27 years old as well, 20-4, 6'3", 75-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5 with a win on Contender Series. He's 1-2 in the UFC. His last fight was a round 1 KO TKO loss versus Carlos Ulberg in May of this year. Now I do think Balato's going to win this, but this is another one. Like how I had that weird feeling about Jekasargi last time. This line is super off. Bato, I think so. Same with Lucas Alexander. He could make this look like a minus 400 favorite. If he goes out there and sparks Ihor, or Ihor can't do anything about the takedowns and he gets subbed quick, something like that, or ground and pound, he could make it look like he should have been a huge favorite. I just don't think that's what we're going to get. Balato's very hittable on the feet. He's not the quickest guy. Everything he does feels quite lumbering. I think Ihor Poteria is a little bit faster. He's got power in his hands. And I think he can make it awkward on the ground if Bato takes him down. Like, try and throw up some subs. He has a few. I think he's got 7 submissions, actually. So he has a few subs, obviously all against lesser guys. But I think he can make it weird on the bottom. That's not where I see the angle, though, for the line being weird. If Poteria wins, it's probably going to be a round 1 knockout. And I think they're both so, how do I say, like, they're high variance fighters. Like, they could get a knockout, they could get knocked out, they could get a sub, they could get submitted. Like, it feels like it's a toss-up for both of these guys. A lot of the times when they fight, unless they're fighting like a bum. But I think on the feet, Poteria is going to be quicker. He's got decent kicks. His cardio isn't good, though, so that's why this angle, I think, is, if you want to take the shot on Poteria, it's got to be knockout or round 1 knockout to get crazy odds. I think I wrote it down. Poteria money line, you can see right there, obviously plus 300. His round 1 KO line is plus 1200. So I'll probably take a small sprinkle on that. If it gets out of round 1 though, Bato probably wins and makes it look like he should be a minus 400. If this line gets out of the first round, I don't see a very good path for Poteria. So I'll probably take a shot at that round 1 KO, or maybe just like a quarter unit on the money line and like a 0.1 or something on the round 1 KO. But if this does get out of the first round, which I'm not saying it won't, I think it could. I think Bato starts to get the takedowns. Poteria's gas tank is awful. I think Bato probably has the, how do I say it? Like the I don't want to say slicker, like the, I guess, better technique. He's just a better striker. But like I said, the head movement's awful. Poteria is fast, got good power in his hands. I think he can knock Bato out. So that's why I want to take that shot. But my pick is going to be Bato. I think probably 7 out of 10 times Bato is able to get this out of the first round or land a big shot on Poteria. I don't know. But I like Bato in this one as the pick. Betting wise, though, I will be taking a small shot at Poteria just because, like I said, I think the line's kind of crazy. This is like a high variance fight where it should probably be closer to like minus 175. I don't know. It just, with these two style of fighters, this line didn't make much sense to me. But the pick's Bato. Betting wise, though, the side is Poteria easily. Next up, featherweight bout, Steve Garcia, Costa. I love this fight. Steve Garcia, 31 years old, 14-5, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight was a round 2 KO TKO victory over Shailan Nerdambeka, and that was in April of this year. Very good comeback. He was getting, I don't want to say cooked, but he got dropped in the first. He was getting wrestled a bit. He was able to get up and land a mean body shot to put Nerdambeka down. Sick comeback from him. Costa on the other side, 27 years old, 20-6, 5'10", 71-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5, 1-1 in the UFC. That loss in the UFC though, up a weight class on short notice, taking on Thiago Moises. Very tough ask for your first opponent, and especially on short notice up a weight class. His last fight though, unanimous decision victory over Austin Lingo. That was in July of this year. And he looked very, very good in that fight. His body kicks were disgusting. His Muay Thai all around looked pretty solid. His counter striking was good. He was able to land his left straight quite a bit down the pipe. And like I said, that body kick was disgusting. He's got good leg kicks. His grappling is solid. Maybe he doesn't have like the best takedowns, but I don't think that's going to be a huge issue against Steve Garcia. I think he'll be able to get them. And obviously he's jiu-jitsu wise much better than Steve Garcia. On the feet though, I talked about all the good for Costa. He is hittable. He's had to be durable in the past. We've seen him get rocked in outside of the UFC, and boy does Steve Garcia have power. He may not be the prettiest striker. It may not be like the most well thought out game plan, but he will fight for your money. He will move forward, throw big shots, and if they're coming back at him, he'll eat them if he can. If not, he goes to sleep. That's kind of how his fights tend to go. Also, he's very susceptible to being put on the ground, and on his back he can get stuck. So I do favor Costa in this fight quite a bit. I think he's just much more technical than Steve Garcia. I think he's the much more well-rounded martial artist than Steve Garcia. What I think we see happen is Costa's able to kind of withstand that early storm that Steve Garcia will bring. I think he'll start landing the body kicks and the leg kicks. I think that leg is going to be there to be chewed up. I think he'll land counters as they come in, but one of these times I think we'll see Steve Garcia blitz in and get caught with a big shot and go down, and Melquizael probably finishes it with ground and pound, but I could see maybe he gets the club and sub type of deal. I do think Costa wins this fight at a pretty high clip. He's just a much better fighter in my opinion. I do, however, think Steve Garcia can knock a lot of people out at 145 pounds. His power is great. He's a fast striker, and like I said, he's wild. So he's going in there to mix it up and brawl. And when that kind of stuff happens, obviously, anybody can get knocked out. Costa inside the distance is minus 120 right now. Costa KO is plus 175. I'll probably take a small shot on that. And Steve Garcia KO TKO plus 375. Not the worst line. I've seen a few people taking a shot at that just because of like the wildness and the variance Steve Garcia fights can bring. So I don't hate that shot, but definitely on the Melchizedek Costa side here. I think he gets this one done by finish. Maybe I want to say before the third round. I highly doubt we see the third round. So yeah, the pick here is definitely going to be Melchizedek Costa. Much better mixed martial artist all around. I think he can get the takedowns, especially if this fight gets out of the first round. Do good stuff on the ground and also on the feet. I think he'll be able to kind of withstand the early storm from Garcia, land good counter shots of his own, work the body kick, work the leg kick. I think it's going to be there all day. Next up, Drakkar Klose taking on Joe Solecki. This is an interesting one. Klose, 35 years old, 13, 2-1, 5'9", 70-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5. He's been quite inactive though. His last fight, unanimous decision victory over Rafa Garcia in July of last year, July 2022. So it's been quite some time since we've seen him. Joe Solecki on the other side, 30 years old, 13-3, 5'9", 70.5-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5 as well. His last fight was a round 2 submission victory over Carl Deaton, who probably isn't quite UFC level. But I believe that was a short notice replacement, so it is what it is. And that was in February of this year, so also a bit of time since we've seen him, but not nearly the layoff Drakkar Klose has had. He's had some issues with injuries over his career. I think this most recent one was an ACL, so it'll be interesting to see how he looks coming back from that. If he can keep the pace he kept in the Rafa fight, like if his cardio came back. So a lot of questions there, but how I kind of see this fight going is on the feet. Obviously, Drakkar Klose has Joe Solecki covered in every possible fashion. He's a very good boxer. His jab is great. It's heavy. Joe Solecki, very hittable. When he strikes, he's got kind of like a decent lead left hook. It looks heavy when it lands. It's not fast at all. He doesn't land it often, and against a good striker, I think he'll have trouble landing it. But his grappling is where he makes his money. Decent takedowns. Not the best, they're okay, but he's kind of relentless with him, so he'll end up finding them. And once he's on top, it is definitely position over submission. He likes to wet blanket you. He wants to kind of drain the life out of you, win minutes, and if he can find the submission, he'll take it, but he's not going to lose the position over it, or at least that's how I see most of his fight. That's how it looks to me. And I think Drakkar could get stuck on the bottom at times, but how I see this one going is we have a good first round competitive. Drakkar's able to get, maybe he gets taken down, gets back up, he's landing good shots, stuffs a couple takedowns. Joe Solecki's gas tank is definitely a question mark, so that'll be interesting as the fight goes on. I think once he starts to get tired towards the end of that first, maybe into the second, Drakkar's able to shuck off takedowns much easier. If he does get takedowns, he'll be able to get up much easier. And then on the feet, Joe Solecki starts getting slow and lumbering. The shots are poorly selected. Like I said, not fast. Like when he strikes them, the biggest descriptor I can give of it is slow. It's just, it doesn't look good. So I think once that starts to kick in, Drakkar starts working him on the feet. It'll be interesting to see how Joe Solecki handles that down the line, if he tries to kind of use cage control to get away from that. But I also just don't think once he gets tired, he'll be able to keep close up against the cage for long periods of time, like meaningful minutes. And the thing is, if he is getting these takedowns, even into the second round, I just think what Drakkar Klose will be doing on the feet will be more meaningful. When Solecki's on the ground, if he's not threatening submissions constantly, and he's just winning minutes on top, not landing great ground and pound, I don't see how he swings, obviously unless it's like 4 minutes of control time and Drakkar stands up for the last minute and boxes him up a little bit, then obviously that round will go to Solecki. I just don't see it going that way. I don't think Solecki will have enough control time each round to win the rounds if he's not getting tired, which I think he will. If he gets tired, I think it's a wash on the feet probably. So as this fight goes on, Joe Solecki's getting tired, takedowns are getting easier to stuff, Klose continues to land on the feet. I could see a round 3 finish or a decision. It's quite a tough call for me. I want to take a bit on the round 3. I don't even know. His round 2 KO line is plus 1,000. Round 3 KO line is plus 1,200. So I'll probably put a little bit on that. I also wrote down the best fight odds or whatever. FightOdds.io doesn't have them on there. My book always releases them the day before the fight. But if you can get like the double chance props or on rounds or methods, that would be good. close KO decision, if you can find that and it's reasonable, that's not bad, and it should be reasonable because the line is a pick'em anyway, so it should be decent. And then also some books have round 3/decision. I don't think that is a bad one either. I do think Close could get the finish in the second round, but I also think Selecki will have enough, I don't know, competitiveness, drive, enough gas in the tank to make it maybe not competitive, but he's still in the fight. He's not going to be completely out of it by the second round, I don't think. When the third round comes around is really when we'll start to see his tank deplete. So I like Close in this one. I'm very close to putting like a 1.5 on him unit bet. I don't know what's holding, because like the way I describe it, it should be quite easy. I'm worried about Close getting stuck on the bottom early. So I don't know, that scares me. But I gotta follow my gut here. I'm going with Close. I'll probably end up putting a small little bet on his money line, and then definitely a bit on round 2 at plus 1,000, round 3 at plus 1,200. They seem easy to me with how Joe Selecki fights. Easy bets to place at least. But yeah, the pick is definitely Jakar Close for this one. Next up, middleweights, Zachary taking on Cody Brundage. This is a violence fight for sure. I have a hard time seeing this one get out of the second round. Probably not even the first, but if it does, definitely not the second. Zachary's 29 and I almost said 29 now. 29 years old, 6-0, 6'4", 77-inch reach, 5-0. Obviously, he's undefeated, and he's got a win on Contender Series, which was his last fight, a round 1 submission victory over Eli Aronov in August of this year. Cody Brundage on the other side, 29 years old as well. 9-5 is the record. 6 feet tall, 72-inch reach, 2-3 in his last 5. That last fight being a round 1 DQ victory over Jacob Malkoun. That was September of this year. That one was tough because Cody Brundage was getting walked up and down the octagon. Malkoun was cooking him, but he landed a few back of the head shots. Cody Brundage couldn't continue. It was totally Jacob Malkoun's fault. Like, there's nothing, I don't know, people were mad at Brundage. He got smoked in the back of the head a few times. He was saying he had issues with it after the fight for quite some time, so hopefully he's all good now. But yeah, gets the DQ win even though he was getting dog walked. He was probably going to be on a 4-fight losing streak. But bad mistake by Malkoun. He loses the fight, and now we're here. This is a weird one because I think Zachary's probably should finish Brundage. I think he's got, I don't want to say more power than this, because obviously Brundage is a very powerful striker. He throws big overhands and he can land them. He can put people down. He hurt Rodolfo Vieira with one and then decided to jump a guillotine on him, which was stupid. But Zachary, I like the power in his hands. He throws good shots, very long, good straight shots. His Muay Thai clinch is fantastic, especially for how big he is. He uses it so well. The elbows are really nice. He throws good knees. He throws good knees up the middle just when guys are coming in because he's so big too. And then on the ground, when he's on top, his ground and pound is very vicious. Great elbows, great punches from the top. And then on the bottom, he can definitely threaten submissions. We've seen him put guys in weird spots before. And with Brundage, the takedown defense for Zach Reese is a little questionable, so I do think Brundage will be able to get those takedowns. Will he be able to stay out of Zach Reese's, I don't know, guard or just submission threat? Will he be able to avoid the submission threat from Zach Reese? I don't think so. The dude pulled a guillotine on Rodolfo Vieira and put himself on the bottom and then got arm triangle. Like, in what world did he think jumping a guillotine on Rodolfo Vieira was a good idea? So the fight IQ is a question for sure. The cardio is a big question for sure against Cedriques Dumas. Obviously it was on short notice, but his cardio wasn't great in general. But dude was dead like 3/4 of the way through the first round, and Dumas was able to reverse him continuously. So to be honest, if he's getting reversed by Dumas, who isn't an awful grappler but isn't the best, a guy with the strength and size of Zacharias will probably be able to get off the bottom once Brundage has him down and he starts to get tired. But if Brundage can land a big shot, who knows? Zacharias' striking defense is still a question mark, up in the air. We haven't seen him fight a striker that'll really test that. He hasn't fought anybody of meaning yet, so I'm still waiting to see how he does versus somebody who can really put him in bad spots, put him in in spots where he needs to fight out of or recover well out of. So there's still questions to be asked. It's a Contender Series guy. But I do think he gets this victory. Cody Brundage's durability is a question. He's been finished quite a bit. He's probably going to get submitted here, to be honest, or like reversed and ground and pounded. But like I said, I don't think this fight gets out of the first round. If it does, definitely not the second. There's no way this goes the distance, but I'm taking Zachary to get the win. Betting wise, I'm staying away because of all those question marks I talked about. Zachary's probably should find the finish here, but yeah, this is one I just kind of want to find out about Zachary's, see if Cody Brundage tests him at all, and how he reacts to that, if so. But Zachary is definitely the pick here. Next up, Miesha Tate taking on Julia Avila, two girls we haven't seen in quite some time. Julia Avila especially. Tate, 37 years old, 20-9, 5'6", 65-inch reach, 1-4 in her last 5. She hasn't looked great as of recent. Her last fight was unanimous decision loss versus Lauren Murphy in July of last year. Julia Avila on the other side, 35 years old, 9-2, 5'7", 68-inch reach, 4-1 in her last 5, 3-1 in the UFC. And her last fight, a round 3 submission victory over Julia Stolyarenko back in June of 21. So it's been quite some time since we've seen her, like I said. And I think she comes out and gets the victory here. Miesha Tate has looked very questionable recently. Her entries on takedowns aren't great. Her striking defense isn't great. Julia Avila has decent grappling both offensively and defensively. I don't know if Miesha Tate really has it anymore, to be honest. And again, this is one where there are a lot of question marks because Avila was just pregnant, I believe. She was pregnant, and then she had the knee injury. She had a lot of weight to lose from that injury, she said. I assume it was just being inactive, not being able to fight. I don't know how close the pregnancy and the injury were to each other. I assume not too close, just because I assume she got hurt training. So it might have been a bit after that, but still, the layoff is quite long. It'll be interesting to see how she comes back, but I do favor her on the feet. She's got decent power for the weight class. Miesha Tate, like I said, her striking defense isn't good. She was getting her face beat up in her past 2 fights. And I just don't know if she's able to get Julia Avila down for meaningful periods of time or do meaningful things with it if she gets the takedown. So on the feet, I favor Julia Avila. And like I said, I just don't know if Miesha Tate gets it to the ground and does anything with it if she does. Avila will probably be able to get up if she does, but I'm going with Avila in this one. It's a weird fight, so I'm probably going to stay away betting-wise. I kind of want to play Avila just because I don't like Miesha Tate at this stage in her career, but also 35 years old, coming off a pregnancy and an injury and a long layoff. And so I don't know. There's question marks on both sides. I feel like I've said that a lot this episode, but Avila's the pick. You'll see on Twitter again if I do end up putting a small play on Avila or not. Probably not, but we'll see. Next up, our first main card bout at middleweight, we've got Puna Soriano taking on Dustin Stoltzfus. Puna, 31 years old, 9-3, 5'11", 72.5-inch reach, 2-3 in his last 5. His last fight being a round 2 KO TKO loss versus Roman Kopylov in January of this year. A lot longer ago than I felt like it was, but whatever. Dustin Stoltzfus on the other side, 32 years old, 14-5, 6 feet tall, 75-inch reach, 1-4 in his last 5. In his last fight, a quick one, a round 1 19-second knockout loss versus Abus Magomedov in September of last year. That had a lot of people hype for Abus, and then he came out and he's lost his next 2. Whatever. In this one, I favor Puna quite a bit. I don't know what Dustin Stoltzfus does to put Puna off his game. He's obviously going to shoot for the takedowns, but I think Puna's first line of takedown defense is decent, and I don't think Dustin Stoltzfus's wrestling is quite good enough to get it. Like, I don't know if he's got that dog in him to keep shooting him over and over, be relentless with him until he can break Puna down to get him. And then on the feet, he's super hittable. Puna's got big power. It really depends on Puna in this one. One of the lines I was thinking, or that I kind of stood out to me, was the under 1.5 being plus 125. So it's kind of tempting because I think there's a good chance Puna does get the first round knockout, but like I said, it's kind of up to him if he's really going after it, going for it, if he can shuck off these takedowns from Stoltzfus, which I think he will be able to, but I don't know. The under's tempting, but it being plus money kind of has, I don't know, just makes me think a little bit, so I'm not too sure there. But I just don't think Dustin Stoltzfus is great. All around, he's okay, but I think Puna finds the big shot here to put him out at some point, or at least lands enough to win the decision. Maybe puts him down in 1 or 2 rounds if he's not able to get him out of there, and wins the decision that way. But I don't see Stoltzfus really making it to the decision. I think Puna gets him at some point in this one, but again, it's not one I'm super confident in. I'm not going to bet on this one. The lines I have written down are obviously that under 1.5 plus 125. Interesting, but I don't know. Puna KO plus 100. If you're kind of thinking like me, maybe you just play the KO line for Puna because the under 1.5 scares you. Maybe you can get it late second round, early third. I don't know. I really don't see it getting there in my head. And then Puna round 1 KO is plus 275, so maybe I put a little bit on that instead and just stop worrying myself. And if he gets the first round, he does. If not, I won't be worried because it was like a quarter of a unit or something. But I do think Puna gets the victory in this one. I don't think Stoltzfus is great. This is probably a bounce back win for Puna here. I think he gets the knockout. Next up, Clay Guida taking on Joaquim Silva. I can't say I'm super excited for obviously it'll be exciting, but I don't know. Clay Guida doesn't get me hyped like he used to. 41 years old, 38-20, 5'7", 70-inch reach, 2-3 in his last 5. His last fight was a unanimous decision loss versus Rafa Garcia in April of this year. Joaquim Silva, 34 years old, 12-5, 5'8", 69-inch reach, 2-3 in his last 5. His last fight was a round 3 KO TKO versus Arman Tsarukyan round 3 KO TKO loss versus Arman Tsarukyan in June of this year. This is a weird fight for me. I don't have too much to say about this one, to be honest. On the feet, I think Clay Guida is very hittable. His chin is questionable at this point. I think maybe he can take Joaquim down. If he does, I think he probably gets reversed or gets scrambled out, and Joaquim finds himself in a good spot and gets the submission or gets the ground and pound or knocks him out on the feet. Like I said, I really don't have much of an opinion on this one. I don't care about this fight. I'm not excited for it. This will be my go get a snack fight, to be honest. There'll probably be a finish. The result doesn't matter. I don't care who wins, to be honest. So the pick's going to be Joaquim Silva here. He probably finishes Clay Guida, but staying away betting-wise, I don't know. This fight doesn't interest me. On to the good fights now. We've got Sean Brady taking on Kelvin Gastelum back at welterweight, so that's exciting. He's been talking about his weight was good. Obviously, he said it was a challenge to get all the weight off, but he said the weight cut, or at least like getting down to where he has to weight cut. The weight's gone well. He's feeling good in the gym. He's posted a few pictures. He looks big. So I'm quite excited for this fight, and Kelvin back at 170. But Brady, 31 years old, 15-1, 5'10", 72-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5, with his last fight being a round 2 KO TKO loss to Belal Muhammad in October of last year. On the other side, Kelvin Gastelum, 32 years old, 18-8, 5'9", 71-inch reach, 2-3 in his last 5. And his last fight was a unanimous decision victory over Chris Curtis in April, and that was up at middleweight. This is his first fight back down. I do like Kelvin Gastelum quite a bit in this spot. I think we know what Sean Brady's going to do. He's going to want to get the fight to the ground here, but he's content sometimes to strike for a little bit, and I think that could be an issue for him. He was striking quite a bit versus Jake Matthews. Obviously, he couldn't get the takedowns versus Belal. His entries looked really, really... they were just bad. Like, he couldn't find the timing for him. Belal kept shucking him off pretty easily. On the feet, it's a wash here. Kelvin Gastelum will always be a better striker than Sean Brady. Sean Brady's an okay boxer. It's nothing crazy. If you're not a great boxer, he can box with you. He can use it to get in range and get takedowns sometimes. And like his power is okay. He's a big guy, so he's got decent power, but it's not the quickest. Striking defense leaves quite a bit to be desired. He was getting pieced up by Belal Muhammad. He was in a back and forth war with Belal Muhammad, which is kind of funny to say striking wise. But I think Kelvin Gastelum will be able to find him here on the feet. Sean Brady's entries have looked poor. I think in the first round, maybe we see Sean Brady get Kelvin to the ground, but once the fight goes on, they both start getting into it. Sean Brady's getting tired. I think Kelvin's first line of takedown defense is quite solid, and I obviously he'll be wary of it, so I think he'll be aware. He'll strike in good spots to not get taken down. I don't think he'll overextend really to where Brady can duck under and find the takedowns and time him that way. because that does worry me. Kelvin, he gives up his back to get up sometimes, so maybe Brady finds his back there. But I just think the advantage is so big on the feet, and that's where all the big damage moments are going to take place. So unless Brady finds a submission, to be honest, or he has like 3.5-4 minutes of control time in 2 rounds, I just don't see how he wins a decision. I don't think he has big moments. I think Kelvin Gastelum at some point will be able to land big shots on the feet and put him down, probably. That's how I see this going. I think Kelvin probably knocks him out. But even if he doesn't, it'll just be the constant box. If Kelvin Gastelum really gets the boxing going and he's not like landing huge shots where he's going to put Brady out, I just think that attrition will start to really wear on Brady, where he's even more tired than he would just naturally be, and it gets worse and worse. I really think Kelvin finds the finish, to be honest. I don't think Brady will be able to do enough on the feet to stay away from it, and I don't think he'll be able to get it on the ground for long enough periods of time to stay away from the threat on the feet. So I love Kelvin Gastelum in this spot. I have his money line already on. I take the odds right before I start recording from fightodds.io or whatever, and I always just take the bet online odds at plus 100 here for Gastelum. But unfortunately, when I took it, my book had Kelvin at minus 106, so I've got like 1.1 on it. Maybe gonna add a little more, I'm not sure. Gastelum KO TKO plus 240. I'll definitely be putting like 0.25, maybe a half on that bet. I like both of those spots quite a bit. I don't see, unless it is full control time for 2 full rounds or Brady finding a submission, I just don't see what he does to win this fight. So I like Kelvin Gastelum quite a bit in this spot. I already got the bet down. Let's go. Next up, another spot I like quite a bit. Rob Font taking on Deiveson Figueiredo. Coming up, Kelvin, we were just talking about Gastelum going down. Figgy's finally coming up. The weight cut was starting to get to him. He's probably too old to do that big of a weight cut anymore. He's a massive guy, so up at 135 pounds. It'll be very interesting to see how that goes. Rob Font, 36 years old, 20-7, 5'8", 71.5-inch reach, 2-3 in his last 5. And his last fight was unanimous decision loss versus Corey Sandhagen in August of this year, where he could not keep Corey Sandhagen off of him with the wrestling. Deiveson Figueiredo, 35 years old, 21, 3-1, 5'5", 68-inch reach, 2-2-1 in his last 5. Like most of those are, I think four of them are versus Brandon Moreno. And the last one, a round 3 doctor stoppage loss versus Brandon Moreno, obviously for the belt back in January. I almost said 3 different months that weren't January. And that was after after Moreno had landed a huge, kind of jumping, leaping left hook that landed right on Figgy's eye and I don't know if it really rocked him or if it was just he broke his orbital or something, or I don't know. He did something with the punch that hurt Figgy enough for him to go down and didn't get off his back for the rest of the round, and the doctor ends up stopping it in between. Moreno gets the victory. I think size and length are going to be quite an issue. Obviously, the reach advantage doesn't look huge, but I just think up a weight class, Rob being 3 inches taller, plus having the 3.5-inch reach advantage, it's going to feel longer for Figgy in there. I think that happens a lot when it's taller guys, even though the reach isn't as long. It feels longer when they're that much taller. And man, is the boxing great from Rob Font. Figgy walks forward. He likes to kind of stalk. He doesn't really cut the cage off well. He likes to stalk. He stalks with his hands down. He's always fighting with his hands down. I think his big win condition here is finding the knockout punch or finding the submission on the ground. Rob Font knows that, and obviously everybody in a fight is trying to finish their opponent, but I just don't see Figgy being a minute winner here, and I think Rob knows that. He needs the big Hail Mary knockout or the submission. I think Rob Font's takedown defense is good enough to keep Figueiredo off him. I don't think Figgy's going to be quite big enough to get Rob Font down, and if he does, I don't know if he'll be able to hold him down for meaningful periods. And on the feet, how I talked about with Figgy stalking with his hands down, I think he's going to eat a lot of straight shots down the middle. Rob Font's jab is exceptional. I think he's going to bust Figgy's face up. Figgy was getting dropped by Brandon Moreno multiple times over 4 fights. And And I do wonder if that had to do with that weight cut down to 125 pounds. So again, it'll be interesting to see. But obviously, we know he can be dropped. Rob Font is not like a weak puncher by any means. He's got big power in his hands, and with how slick his boxing is, I just think that's going to cause so many problems for Figgy on the feet in the way in which Figgy fights. Hands down, always moving forward, looking for big swinging punches. I think Rob's going to be able to jab and move, throw a 1-2 and move, just keep sticking him and moving, not letting Figgy land those big shots, not letting him find the takedowns. I like Rob Font a lot in this spot. I have a unit and a half down on him already, so I'll probably just stick with that for Font. But yeah, I like this spot a lot. I definitely think he gets the win here. I don't really see what Figgy does unless it's landing a big shot. We've got lightweights in the co-main event. Jalen Turner taking on Bobby Green. It was supposed to be Bobby Green versus Dan Hooker. You can see the fight poster down in the bottom left. Dan Hooker breaks his arm. He's out of the fight. We get Jalen Turner on short notice with a huge weight cut. I don't know if it has been while I'm recording this. I haven't seen it at least, but if it'll get moved to a catch weight. But for now, it's not. Jalen Turner, 28 years old, 13-7, 6'3", 77-inch reach, 3-2 in his last 5. His last fight being a split decision loss versus Dan Hooker in July of this year. That fight was insane. Jalen Turner landed a huge head kick that probably puts most people out. Dan Hooker stays in it, fights back, ends up getting the victory. It was pretty sick. Bobby Green on the other side, 37 years old, 31, 14-1, 5'10", 71-inch reach, 2-2-1 in his last 5. His last fight being a round 1, 33-second KO TKO over Grant Dawson in October. With Jalen Turner coming in on short notice, I do wonder if the weight cut will be an issue, especially if it doesn't get moved to a catch weight. So that definitely concerns me. If this was full camp, both of like nothing short notice about this, I would pick Jalen Turner. I feel like Bobby Green would struggle to get inside. Jalen Turner uses his range really, really good. Obviously, his striking is fantastic. He has good kicks. And to be honest, he could probably take Bobby Green down, which is kind of crazy to think about, but I think he could. Obviously, I like his submission game better as well. But with it being short notice and how big Jalen Turner is, the weight cut, I do have questions. If he can put Bobby Green out early, then we're good. But can he go late if he's landing shots on Bobby Green, but he's not able to put him out, or I don't know, somehow find a submission? I worry about it going late and Bobby Green being able to pile on like Dan Hooker did if Jalen Turner starts to get tired. Because obviously he did get tired versus Dan Hooker, and that's where Hooker was able to come in, kind of bounce back from that big head kick and really put a lot of work in that third round. So the cardio is a big concern here, especially on short notice. But I'm going to stick with my gut here. I think Jalen Turner is just better. Bobby Green is going to come in with his hands down, and maybe he feels like, obviously he knows Jalen Turner has a long reach, but maybe staying as far away as he'll feel safe and continue to get popped. I don't like how Bobby Green fights much at all, to be honest. We've seen him get knocked out, and I think Jalen Turner probably finds a big 1-2 down the pipe when Bobby Green's jumping in and puts him out. I'm not super confident in this though, just because of all the surrounding stuff with Jalen Turner coming in on short notice. He said some stuff that worried me too in press conferences and fight media, talking about how he felt like he had to take this. He didn't have a choice, and he's like, I just got to go in there, get the weight off, and get the job done. I don't know. It just didn't seem like he was super interested, so that scares me a little bit. But the pick is going to be Jalen Turner. I'm definitely not betting on this fight with everything I've said about Jalen Turner here, but I do think he gets the victory if all goes to plan. So I'm picking Jalen Turner here. Next up, Beneil Dariush taking on Arman Tsarukyan in the main event. A very interesting fight here. Dariush, 34 years old, 22, 5-1, 5'10", 72-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5. And his last fight was a round 1 KO TKO loss versus Charles Oliveira in June of this year. Arman Tsarukyan on the other side, 27 years old, 20-3, 5'7", 72.5-inch reach, 4-1 in his last 5 as well. His last fight was against somebody on this card who we spoke about previously, but it was a round 3 KO TKO victory over Joaquim Silva just a week after Beneil fought, also in June. And I've seen quite a bit. So the line was actually super close for quite some time, and Arman Tsarukyan got bet up into the sky. His line is huge now. It was a near pick 'em. He was like minus 120 or something, and now we have minus 300. I think the odds, like perfectly correct odds in my eyes, are probably like minus 175-ish for Arman. I think he should be a decent favorite, but not too big. Obviously, this is just because people bet him up to that, but I do think Arman wins this fight. We saw Beneil. I think a lot of people are saying this fight's going to be like the obviously the Dariush one versus Gamrot, when he was able to keep it on the feet, get up when he did get taken down, and land good shots. He obviously put Gamrot down, and he does have big power, but Arman probably should have gotten the nod versus Gamrot. And obviously MMA math doesn't mean anything here, but I think on the feet, Arman's the better striker than Gamrot, so it won't look quite the same, in my opinion. I think Arman will be able to take more advantage than Gamrot did of the times when it's on the feet. And I prefer Arman's takedown entries to Gamrot's as well. I think he's just a better grappler, and it's kind of, I mean, they're both elite grapplers, but I think Arman is the better of the two. With this being 5 rounds, I think that favors Arman quite a bit, to be honest. His cardio is solid. He's relentless with the takedowns. I think Gamrot was getting stuffed on them, going down to his knees and then kind of falling onto his back and then rolling out and getting up. I think Arman will continue to push for them, and like I said, on the feet, I think he's better than Gamrot too. He'll be able to take more advantage than Gamrot did. The pressure Arman brings down the stretch, I think, is going to wear on Dariush once we start getting into round 3, and he knows there's 2 more rounds. I think we're going to start seeing Beneil, maybe not wither, but start to get tired. Everything's going to get slower. Arman's going to start to land on the feet more. The takedowns are going to come easier. And I think it'll be a dogfight for the first 2 rounds for sure. A lot of scrambling, Beneil landing good shots, Arman landing good shots, but once they get deep into the fight and the pressure from Arman continues, I think Beneil will start to kind of wither away. My thinking here is we probably see a decision, but if Dariush is so gassed that he's, I don't know, like if he gets gassed enough to where he can get finished, maybe that happens. I think we probably see a decision here. I think Dariush is competent enough on the ground to kind of not take, I don't even know. I think Arman could land big shots on the ground. I think it would happen late, though. If we do see a finish, I'm thinking like late round 4, round 5 type of deal. If we do see a finish, the youth advantage, the youth discrepancy, I guess. Arman 7 years younger, better cardio, relentless with it, better grappling. I just think that spells out good things for him late in the fight. And early, I'm not saying it's going to go all bad, but I just think it'll be a dog fight early, and Arman will start to pull away as the fight goes down the stretch. So that's kind of my read here. I'm going Arman for the victory. And betting-wise, the only one that kind of sticks out to me is Dariush Arman over 3.5 at minus 130. I'd be surprised if it gets finished in the under, unless, like, I don't know, I doubt it, but unless Dariush is like shot after that Charles Oliveira fight and he takes one big shot and goes down, maybe something crazy like that happens. But for the most part, I see this fight going over. I see Arman winning a decision, dominant down the stretch as we get into like late 3, 4, 5. I think Arman will look really good. So now we get on to the Savage Rounds parlay. We hit last week, but it was like a stupid one. One of the fights ended in a no contest because of a bad ref stoppage. We win the second leg, so we only win like 0.37 units or something. It is what it is. We take the small unit victory. We move on. 18-15 going into this week, plus 3.47 units. It should be more, but I made a few bad reads, and we had some unlucky losses. I always bring up the one, but the Fiziev loss. But we want to go 4 in a row to end off the month. We got last week. We have 3 more cards. We're finishing off strong. Try and get above 5 units for our first year of tracking the Savage Rounds parlay. But I feel good about this week. Rob Font is going to jab Figgy's head off. I feel like Figgy needs a finish, a big shot, or a submission somehow to get Rob Font out of there. I don't think he's going to be able to be a minute winner here. And Like I said, Rob Font, the length is going to cause issues. The straight shots, I think Rob's going to be able to jab and move, get out of the way of the big stuff, stop takedowns when Figgy shoots a few of them that he will. And then Arman, like I said, I think we'll have a dogfight for the first 2 rounds. A lot of scrambling, a lot of big shots being thrown. I think they'll both eat some good shots. But when the pressure of Arman continues late into the 3rd, into the 4th, into the 5th, Beneil will start to wither, and Arman will continue to push the grappling and the top control and the ground and pound. And I think late it'll be a tough ask for Beneil to get the win. I think he'll start to tire, and Arman's pace will continue. You parlay those two, we get plus 128. So what would that be? Let's see. 3.47 plus 1.28. We'd be just under 5 units, 4.75 with 2 weeks left to go if we get this one. So we'll be in a good spot if we're able to hit this. I really do. I think both these guys win. And that is all. Dariush Tsarukyan done. Monday, we will have a recap on the card. We'll talk about what happened with the Savage Rounds parlay, and then I'll go over all the fights, talk about them individually, give out some awards. Tuesday, we'll do matchmaking, and then we'll start over with another predictions bets video. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week for that. Peace.